I'm Alina. I'm 34, a single mom, and for the last year, I've been trying to rebuild a life that got ripped out from under me. The day I'm talking about started with balloons and cupcakes and ended with a moment I'll never forget. The kind of moment that pulls your spine straight and makes you realize your silence can be stronger than someone else's scream. My son, Micah, had been counting down to his 10th birthday for weeks. He's quiet, thoughtful, and loves helping me in the kitchen. The two of us had been planning his party together. Just close family, a few of his friends from school, some streamers, and a chocolate cake he insisted we decorate with blue frosting and marshmallows. It was supposed to be simple, safe, our kind of celebration. But then my ex-husband, Derek, said he was coming, and he wasn't coming alone. He told me 2 days before, like he was doing me a favor. "Sierra wants to meet Micah's family. I think it's time," he said. Just like that, no conversation, no asking if I was okay with it. I swallowed hard and nodded, even though everything inside me screamed no. Derek left me after 12 years of marriage. One day we were planning a family vacation. The next he was moving into an apartment downtown. A few months later, he posted pictures online with Sierra, her hand on his chest, diamond ring flashing like a warning sign. So, yeah, I knew this day would come. I just didn't think it would be that day. When they walked in, I felt the energy shift. Micah ran over to hug his dad. Sierra followed a few steps behind, heels clicking on the floor like she was walking into an interview she planned to win. She wore a tight white dress, not a wrinkle in sight. Her makeup looked professionally done. She handed Micah a gift bag with a logo from some trendy downtown toy store, smiled thinly, and said, "Happy birthday, sweetie. I hope you like it." Derek picked it out, but I approved. I forced a polite smile. "Thank you for coming." Sierra looked around, eyebrows raised like she was inspecting a rental. "It's cute," she said, "very homey." I pretended not to hear it. Micah was already pulling her toward the cake. About an hour later, after the kids had eaten and started running around, I began cleaning up some spilled soda. That's when it happened. Sierra turned to Derek, smiled like she was being helpful, and handed him the broom I'd leaned against the wall. "Here," she said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Help your mother clean. This is your place, right?" Derek froze. A few guests turned to look. I looked at Micah. He had just heard his stepmother call me his mother, like I was some housekeeper hosting a party I didn't belong to. His face flushed. He looked straight at me, like he was waiting for me to say something. I didn't. I kept wiping the table. My hand was shaking, but I didn't say a word, because I had something better than a comeback. I had one last gift for Micah, and Sierra had no idea what was coming. I've never been one for big, flashy parties. That was always Derek's thing. He loved the attention, the showmanship, but I've always believed that the best celebrations are made with heart, not money. So for Micah's 10th birthday, I did what I've always done. I made it ours. I started baking cupcakes 2 days before, the chocolate kind with swirls of blue frosting he likes. My mom, Marta, helped string paper lanterns across our small living room. She even brought the folding table from her basement, the one we've used for every family birthday since I was a kid. It's wobbly in the middle, but I draped a superhero tablecloth over it, and Micah thought it looked cool. He picked out the decorations himself. Blue and silver streamers, foam swords for the backyard, and a big helium balloon shaped like a dragon. We didn't have much to spend, but that didn't matter to him. He was excited. For him, this was a big deal. He'd invited a few friends from school, our neighbors' twins, and of course, my mom. Even my brother, Eli, said he'd stop by after his shift at the fire station. It was going to be small, but full of love. I could feel it in the air that morning, Micah's joy, that rare, unfiltered kind of happiness kids have when they wake up on their birthday. He jumped onto my bed holding a wrapped box in his hands. "You can't open it until tonight," he said. "It's a surprise." I hugged him close. "You're the one turning 10. I should be giving you surprises." "I already have mine," he said. "You." That's the kind of kid Micah is. Kind, thoughtful, and older than his years. Since Derek left, he's been my anchor in ways I never expected. He sees things. He feels when I'm sad, even when I pretend I'm not. He tries to be strong for me. Sometimes I wish he didn't have to. The divorce hit him harder than I let myself admit at the time. One day, his dad was there, helping him build Lego sets, tucking him in at night. The next, he was living in a sleek new apartment downtown, texting instead of showing up, posting photos with Sierra like we never existed. I tried to keep it together. For Micah, for myself. I put my energy into routines, school drop-offs, soccer practice, laundry, budgeting, breathing. I didn't have time to fall apart. But when Derek called and said he was bringing Sierra to the party, it felt like a punch I didn't see coming. She just wants to be part of Micah's life, he said, like that made it easier. I didn't argue, I just said, fine, and hung up before my voice cracked. That morning, as I blew up balloons and pressed wrinkles out of the tablecloth, my mom watched me closely. "You sure you're okay?" she asked, handing me a tray of cupcakes. "I'm fine," I said, arranging them into a little tower. "It's not about me today." She gave me that look mothers give when they know you're lying but choose not to call you out on it. If she says something nasty, I'll break a plate and pretend it was an accident. I smiled. No broken dishes today. Promise when Derek finally arrived, with Sierra at his side, I was outside lighting the birthday candles. I looked up and saw them walking up the path together, hand in hand. He wore a casual button-down, like this was some Sunday brunch. She wore white, which felt like a statement. Micah ran to the door. "Dad!" he shouted. He hugged Derek tightly, then looked at Sierra and gave a polite wave. "Hi." She leaned down and kissed his cheek. "You've gotten so big. Wow. 10 already. I brought something I think you'll love." I stayed quiet, standing by the cake with a lighter still burning in my fingers. "Hey," Derek said awkwardly. "Thanks for letting us come." I nodded. "Of course. It's Micah's day." But as I turned back to the cake, I felt it. The way Sierra's eyes scanned the house, faint smile on her lips, like she already knew she didn't belong here, and planned to make sure I felt that too. I took a breath, lit the last candle, and called out, "Everyone inside, we're about to sing." Micah stood in the center of the room, beaming. He didn't know this was the moment everything was about to shift. Neither did I. But something told me, this wasn't going to be just another birthday. They say a mother knows when something's off. I felt it in the air the moment she stepped inside. Sierra looked around my living room like she was walking through a garage sale. She didn't say it out loud, but everything in her body language said, "This is beneath me." She placed her expensive gift bag next to the modest pile of presents on the kitchen table and made a point to say, "It's from both of us." Derek picked it out, but I upgraded it. She smiled like she expected applause. I stayed polite. There were kids everywhere. My mom was in the kitchen refilling drinks. I wasn't going to cause a scene. I just nodded and asked if they wanted cake. Derek, as usual, said little. He hovered near the snack table, talking to my brother Eli about football, pretending like he wasn't watching me from the corner of his eye. Maybe he knew Sierra was overstepping. Maybe he didn't care. The problem wasn't that Sierra was there. It was how she behaved, like she was staking a claim. Like this wasn't my home, but her stage. She sat with her arm looped through Derek's, laughing loudly, making comments that were just sharp enough to sting but soft enough to pass as jokes. At one point, she walked past my mom and said, "Oh, Marta, this punch is great. I can see where Alina gets her party hosting skills." Marta gave her a tight smile and whispered to me in Spanish, "Esa mujer no tiene vergüenza." That woman has no shame. I tried to laugh it off. I wanted Micah to enjoy his day. That was my only focus. But then came the moment, the one that turned my stomach and made the entire room go silent. I was tidying up after the kids had gone outside to play. There were cupcake wrappers on the floor, juice spilled under the folding table, a few plates teetering on the edge of the counter. I reached for the broom leaning against the wall. Before I could grab it, Sierra stepped forward, picked it up, and turned to Derek. "Here," she said brightly, holding it out to him. "Help your mother clean. This is your place now, right?" She laughed, not a real laugh, a performative one, like it was a punchline to a joke that nobody found funny. Derek froze. I stood there, still holding a napkin in my hand. My face was burning. I looked at Micah. He was standing by the kitchen doorway with a half-eaten cookie in his hand. He'd heard it, every word, and he looked embarrassed, not just for me, but for himself, like he was ashamed that someone had just belittled his mom in front of all these people, and he didn't know what to do about it. He didn't look at her. He looked at me, searching my face for some kind of signal. Was I going to explode? Was I going to cry? Was I going to yell? I did none of those things. I just smiled, tight-lipped, silent. I took the broom from her hand gently and said, "Thank you, I've got it." She blinked, surprised. Maybe she expected a reaction, maybe even a breakdown. She didn't get either. I turned and started sweeping. My mom came over and quietly took the broom from me. "Go sit," she said under her breath. "You've done enough." I sat down, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't hurt by her words. Not really. I was hurt by what they did to Micah. He kept glancing at me the rest of the afternoon. Quiet. Less bubbly than usual. The spark in his eyes dimmed, just a little. That's when I remembered the gift I'd saved for last. The one nobody knew about. A simple wooden box Micah and I had decorated together weeks ago. We painted it navy blue and filled it with tiny things that mattered. Photos, drawings, his first baby sock, and a letter he wrote himself. I'd planned to give it to him after the guests left. A quiet, private moment. But I changed my mind. Sierra had turned his party into a power play. She brought fancy toys, made jabs, tried to show off. But she didn't understand one thing. I didn't need to compete with her. I had something she didn't. And when Micah opened that box, everyone in the room would see exactly what that was. After that moment with the broom, I couldn't stop glancing at Micah. He was quieter than usual, staying close to his friends, but not really playing. Every few minutes, he looked over at me like he was checking to make sure I was still okay, like he wanted to apologize for something that wasn't even his fault. That's what broke me. Not Sierra's words, not Derek's silence, but the way my son shrunk into himself, the kind of damage that doesn't leave bruises but leaves marks anyway. I stood in the kitchen refilling cups of lemonade and thinking, this was supposed to be his day. And for a second, I questioned myself. Should I have said something? Should I have called her out, defended myself, made a scene? But the answer came quickly. No, that's not who I am. And more importantly, that's not the lesson I want to teach my son. I don't want him to learn that power comes from yelling louder or humiliating someone back. I want him to understand that strength comes from knowing your worth and not needing to prove it. That's when I knew exactly what to do. I went to my bedroom, opened the top drawer of my dresser, and pulled out the small gift I had saved just for Micah. It was a box, navy blue, about the size of a shoebox. He and I had painted it together on a rainy Saturday a few weeks earlier. We'd used little stencils to write his name across the top in gold letters. Inside were things that wouldn't mean much to anyone else, but meant the world to us. A family photo from before the divorce, a tiny green plastic dinosaur he used to carry in his pocket, a pressed flower he picked for me last Mother's Day, and at the very bottom, a folded letter he had written, unprompted, when he was supposed to be doing homework. I hadn't read it yet. He'd told me it was for later. I stood there for a long minute, holding that box, staring down at the gold letters, and suddenly it felt heavy, not physically but emotionally, because I knew this was the moment, the one Sierra could never buy her way into, the one Derek couldn't fake, the one no expensive gift could compete with. I walked back out, holding it close to my chest. The kids were finishing cake. Parents were chatting. Sierra was sipping a glass of sparkling water like she was bored at a work event. Micah saw me and smiled, that small, real smile he gives when he knows something special is happening. "Come here, baby," I said softly. "I have one more gift for you." He walked over, curious. I could feel the room quiet a little, just from the change in my tone. I handed him the box and said, "Open it when you're ready." He sat cross-legged in front of the couch and started to unwrap it carefully. No rushing. No tearing into it like the video games and electronics from earlier. He treated it like it mattered, because he knew it did. People started to gather around. Sierra watched from the chair across the room, her legs crossed, her smile tight and frozen. She was still pretending to be above it all, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. Derek looked confused, like he didn't remember us ever giving Micah something that wasn't from a store. Micah opened the lid and let out a little laugh when he saw the dinosaur. "I thought I lost this," he said. He turned the photo around in his hand, the one of all three of us before everything fell apart. He looked up at me. "Can I read the letter?" I nodded. "If you want to." He unfolded the paper and cleared his throat, and in that second, the room fell completely still. Micah unfolded the letter slowly, smoothing it across his lap. He didn't look nervous. He looked steady, like this moment belonged to him. "I wrote this a while ago," he said. "I didn't show it to anyone. I was saving it for my birthday." I didn't know what he was about to read. My heart was pounding, but I nodded gently. "Go ahead, baby." He looked at the paper and began to read. "Dear Mom, thank you for always loving me, even when I mess up, even when I cry about small things. You make me feel safe every day. You pack my lunch even when you're tired. You come to every soccer game, even when it rains. I know sometimes you're sad. I see it, but you still smile at me. You still sing when we clean the kitchen. You still dance when your favorite song comes on. You make life feel okay. I don't want a new family. I don't want a new house. I just want you. You're my best friend, my favorite person, my real home. Happy birthday to me. I already got the best gift. Love, Micah." By the time he reached the end, my mother was quietly wiping tears. Eli had his arms crossed, his jaw tight. A couple of the other parents in the room looked away, giving us our moment. Micah stood and turned to me. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I just opened my arms and he walked right into them. I held him against my chest and he whispered, "I meant every word." "I know," I said. "So did I." For a second, everything was still. And then I heard it, the sound of a chair shifting. Sierra stood up. She didn't say anything. Her face had gone pale. Whatever smug confidence she walked in with had disappeared. She wasn't the center of attention anymore. She had been replaced by truth, by something real. She looked around the room like she needed to anchor herself to something, but there was nothing left to hold on to. The mask had slipped. I met her eyes. I didn't glare. I didn't smirk. I didn't need to. She looked away first. Derek finally broke the silence with a half-hearted, "That was really sweet, buddy." It felt hollow. Even he knew it. He looked smaller than usual, like he was realizing in real time what he had walked away from. Micah turned toward him and said politely, "Thanks, Dad," before sitting back down with the memory box in his lap, touching each item gently like they were treasures. Sierra cleared her throat. "We should get going," she said, voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. Derek nodded, rubbing the back of his neck. "Yeah, thanks for having us." I smiled, calm and firm. "Of course." They walked toward the door. Sierra barely looked back. As she stepped outside, I caught a glimpse of her reflection in the hallway mirror. Eyes down, lips pressed tight. She hadn't been defeated, but she had been seen for exactly who she was. And more importantly, so had I. After the door shut, the room slowly exhaled. Conversations resumed, plates were gathered, music softly returned. But something had changed. The air was lighter. The tension had cracked and drifted away. Micah sat beside me, still holding the box. "I'm glad I read it," he said. "So am I." He looked up. "Did I embarrass you?" I pulled him close. "You honored me." Later that evening, after the guests had left and the sun began to set, I found something tucked in the folds of tissue paper inside the memory box. A second note, smaller, folded in quarters. It read, "P.S. I saw what she said to you today." I didn't like it. I didn't know what to say, but "I'll never let anyone talk to you like that again. You're my mom. That means everything." I pressed the note to my chest and sat in the quiet for a long time. Sierra came into my home, thinking she could humiliate me. What she did instead was show my son exactly why love doesn't come with a price tag, and respect doesn't come from being louder. She brought a broom thinking it would shame me, but my son brought truth and it swept everything else away. After everyone left, the house felt strangely still. Empty plates on the counter, deflated balloons hanging from thumbtacks, the soft smell of frosting still lingering in the air. I walked through the living room picking up cups, but I wasn't really cleaning. I was thinking. Micah had gone to bed with his memory box tucked under one arm and the dinosaur clutched in his hand like it was a trophy. I sat on the edge of my bed holding the second note he'd left me, the one where he promised to never let anyone talk to me like that again. I read it over and over. It wasn't long, it wasn't fancy, but it meant more than anything anyone had said to me in a very long time. And that's when it hit me. I didn't lose anything today. I didn't lose control or dignity or power. I didn't lose face in front of my guests or authority as a mother. I didn't let Sierra win. Because Sierra didn't understand something crucial. She thought I was weak because I stayed quiet. She thought I was passive, soft, too afraid to speak up. What she didn't realize was my silence wasn't fear, it was strength. I didn't fight her because I didn't need to. I didn't yell because I wasn't seeking validation from people who already knew the truth. I didn't perform because I had nothing to prove. I stayed still so my son could shine. And he did. That party, that box, that letter, it all showed who we really were, who he was, the kind of boy I raised, the kind of love we built. Derek may have left, but he didn't take the heart of this home with him. He took his pride, his ego, and someone to keep him company in his comfort zone. But he didn't take our bond. He didn't take my strength. He didn't take Micah's respect. And Sierra? She walked in with her head high and walked out quieter than she came in. Not because I humiliated her, but because I didn't play her game. That's a lesson I hope my son carries for the rest of his life. Real power doesn't need to roar. Sometimes it just needs to speak when it counts, and sometimes not at all. Later that night, I peeked into Micah's room. He was already asleep, the box resting beside his pillow like a secret he was keeping close. His chest rose and fell, calm and steady, his face peaceful. I stood there for a long time. This day didn't go as planned. It wasn't the birthday I imagined when I started hanging streamers that morning. But in the end, it became something better. It became proof. Proof that what we have can't be shaken by someone else's insecurities. Proof that love, real love, isn't loud, isn't dressed up, isn't looking to impress anyone. And proof that no matter how much someone tries to insert themselves into your story, the people who matter already know where home is. Micah knows. And I know too. When I finally turned off the lights and crawled into bed, I didn't feel bitter. I didn't feel angry. I felt proud. Not of the way I stayed silent, but of the way I chose not to make someone else small to feel big, of the way my son stood in truth without needing permission, and of the way love, quiet, unglamorous, handmade love, won. So what started as just another birthday ended up reminding me of one of the most important lessons I've ever learned as a mom. You don't always need to fight to win. Sometimes you just need to let love speak. If this story moved you, made you think of someone you love, or reminded you of your own quiet strength, I'd love for you to do a few things. Like this video if you felt even one moment that hit your heart. Share it with someone who needs to remember how powerful love can be. And comment below. Have you ever stayed silent in a moment that could have exploded? What did it teach you? I read every comment, and your stories mean more than you know. And hey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want more real, raw stories about life, love, and everything in between. Thanks for being here. Until next time, stay grounded, stay strong, and never underestimate quiet love.